Hello there, welcome to Blitz Transmissions. I'm Tommy, and in this video, you saw the title, you know what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be assessing the current state of Star Wars The Black Series, the 6-inch super articulated action figure line made by Hasbro. I think that it's an appropriate time to bring this up. You may be wondering, why now? Why are we talking about this now? That is because of the recent price increases that have been implemented by Hasbro, not just for Black Series, but for almost all their action figure brands across the different IPs that they cover, both ones that they own and ones that are licensed. So let's talk about the Black Series specifically. Now, a little bit about myself. I have been a very heavy collector and been paying close attention to the Black Series line since about 2019, so I've got some skin in the game. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. I like to know what I'm talking about. I like to think I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff. And I have to say that, you know, throughout the course of my being in this line and heavily collecting it, as you can see behind me, I have a pretty extensive Black Series collection. I don't just collect, you know, one thing. I do, you know, original trilogy, prequel trilogy, Clone Wars, new media, expanded universe, you name it. I even have more of my collection that's off screen, below the screen, stuff you can't even see. So I have a lot of Black Series figures, I have a lot of older figures, I have a lot of newer figures. So I've seen a lot of changes, both for better and for worse, in the Black Series. Now, a couple disclaimers that I want to make on this video here. First one is that this is just my opinion. I'm just sharing my thoughts, my personal opinions with you, the audience. I'm not trying to tell anyone that this is how you should think, or that if you think differently, you're stupid and wrong. Just wrong. But no, in all seriousness, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and if you disagree with the points I'm going to make in this video, definitely drop a comment. I love to have back and forth and discourse with people in my comment sections. My other disclaimer here is that I'm not here to listen to shill allegations. Spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about why I think the Black Series is still worth it at the $27.99 price point in its current state. So if you disagree and you think it's because I'm a shill or I'm getting paid, I wish I was getting paid to make a video like this, but no, this is just, again, my personal opinions and my thoughts on the Black Series line. So before I get into the major points of this video, I do just want to beat the dead horse and talk about a point that I make pretty frequently here on Blitz Transmissions. Most notably, when I first brought up this point, is a video that I made almost a year ago now, talking about a similar topic where I talked about the price hikes and the prospect of price hikes and inflation and how it affects the Black Series line. Now, when I talk about inflation, I think it's important to know two things. One, I'm talking about the buying power of the dollar from something in the past to today's money. And when I bring up the inflation argument, I'm also not mentioning wages and how those have caught up with inflation or not. That is not at all the point I'm making. Do take note, I am not an economist. I do not have a degree in marketing, economics, you name it. This is just basic research that you can make. You can go to the United States government's website. There's an inflation calculator, and you can find this all for yourself, and you can get these numbers for yourself. So if you were to take $19.99, which was the original MSRP for Black Series back in 2013 when the line launched, and you take the calculator, you take it from August of 2013, and you transfer that to August of 2025, the buying power of what was $19.99 back then is now $27.69. So the current MSRP for Black Series at your Walmart, your Hasbro Pulse, your Target, your Big Bad Toy Store, and other sites like that is only 30 cents higher than the price of a Black Series figure adjusted for inflation. Now, I think that should be noted that Hasbro has actually tried to keep that price point down because Hasbro knows people tend to get a lot more upset about price hikes than they do about things like less paint applications, you know, less detail applied to accessories, things of that nature. Those are things that I have noticed in the Black Series line in the last couple years. And that's another point I definitely want to make early in this video. I'm not saying that the Black Series has done nothing but improve since 2013. I think it has improved vastly in the 12 years that the line has been around, but I do also want to acknowledge there are things that they're doing right now that I think they used to do better, and there are things that they're doing right now that I think are are a step back from what they've done before. I have a couple awesome interviews on my YouTube channel, one where I spoke to Daryl DePriest, who used to be in charge of the Star Wars action figure lines from about 2005 to about 2015, and I also got to talk to Scott Knightlick, who also worked for places like Mattel and Jazzwares and other companies like that, and Jada Toys, and both of these guys have a lot of business experience in the toy industry. So I tend to take what they have to say with a lot more value than just a random content creator online, because they have the job experience, they have the know-how, they know and have evidence to provide for what they're talking about. In my conversations with both Daryl and Scott, they have both expressed to me that as an action figure line progresses, you have to fight rising costs. It's something that the Star Wars brand ran into really badly back in 2008 with the Great Recession, where the prices and cost of manufacturing figures kept going up, and collectors were getting very upset about it because it resulted in less articulation, less piece count, less paint apps, because Hasbro was trying to keep that price the same. So ultimately, I would say that considering it's been 12 years and looking at how many leaps and bounds and improvements have been made in quality, articulation, detail, things of that nature in Black Series, I can actually say confidently that I do think that the line is still worth it, considering what we get now is essentially the same money for what we were paying for back in 2013. So let's get a little more specific now, shall we? Because you may be wondering, okay, Tommy, you're saying all these things, you're saying there are all these improvements, but I think that the Black Series sucks. I don't think it's nearly as good as it used to be. One of the biggest things about the Black Series that they've vastly improved on over the last 12 years, and I feel like this is something a lot of people overlook, is the articulation improvements that have taken place over the last 12 years. New articulation points that never existed when the line first started just go to show how cutting edge the technology is for Black Series figures. I think that Black Series does a really good job of marrying the look of a figure, helping them look very seamless and realistic, while also keeping great range of motion on those joints. And there are plenty of joints that they've introduced into the Black Series line. I think butterfly joints are a huge one, really bringing forward the range of motion, helping your Jedi get into two-handed lightsaber holding poses, getting more acrobatic and dynamic looking poses in mid-dueling fights. You also have the introduction of the single jointed knee on most of your newer Black Series figures, not all, and that is a gripe that I have with the line. I do wish that they would upgrade all the figures up to this new look. They're much more seamless, the joints look a lot better than those ugly pinned double jointed knees look when you're looking at the figure from head on. And with those single jointed knees, we actually get other points of articulation that have been added as well, as opposed to the pinned double jointed look from the beginning days of the Black Series, such as knee swivel and in some cases boot swivel. Black Series has also improved on the neck articulation of their newer figures with the barbell joint system for the neck pegs, as opposed to the ball and hinge that they used to have back in the day. Some newer figures, like the latest Moff Gideon from The Mandalorian Season 3, also feature two ball joints at the midsection, one about halfway through the torso and the other at the waist. The range of the elbow bend with the single joints has actually come to almost rival that of the double joints, and especially comparing newer figures to older figures from like 2013 to 2017, a lot of the newer figures can actually exceed the range of figures that even did have the pinned double joints back in the day. And Hasbro continues to innovate with articulation on the Black Series, with including new things with the newly revealed Boba Fett from the Book of Boba Fett series, or as I call him, Toba Fett, because he has that toe hinge. Of course, I have my gripes with some of the changes Black Series has made over the years, like the recent removal of thigh swivel on a lot of their recent figures. However, as they've done more figures with that new system, I think they've figured out a way to carve out more of the inside of that hip to really help you get more range out of that newer hip joint. Another thing that I don't feel like is talked about enough is the general increase in quality of your average Black Series figure in the last 12 years. Black Series has made some serious improvements in both paint and sculpting, and the way that they put the figures together, the engineering of the figures, as opposed to just the hinges and the swivels of the joints. One huge improvement Black Series has made is the introduction of photoreal, and since the beginning of photoreal, if you look at a figure from several years ago when they first started implementing photoreal technology to now, it is night and day. I mean, some of the latest Black Series figures have such clean and precise paint applications, especially the human faces. They have really nailed some of those actor likenesses for the figures, and while not every one is a hit, I can understand it's very difficult to get those likenesses spot on at the 1/12 scale, but seriously, for being mass-produced figures, I think they're doing a great job. Black Series has also improved in a lot of ways that assist articulation with the way they sculpt the figures, such as chest overlays or torso overlays, as opposed to just one solid hunk of plastic that makes up the torso of a figure. Black Series has also improved with O-ring systems at the shoulders for different armor and padding looks. Doing things like the overlay system and the O-ring system really help to improve the quality of a Black Series figure, making them look more realistic while also not hindering articulation in most cases. Black Series has also gotten really good in 2025 at their mixed media approach on a lot of their newer figures. The ones that come to mind for me are Shaak Ti and Luminara Unduli from Attack of the Clones. Those recent releases as fan channel waves have done a phenomenal job of bringing in different textures of fabric and mixing that with sculpted plastic to really give us a good look for a character. Here in 2025, we've also gotten introduced to a lot of overlays that have a very soft, malleable plastic that move themselves right out of the way and really assist in the posing of a character, as opposed to a lot of the stiffer, thicker overlays that they used to do maybe even just 5 years ago. Some newer features on Black Series figures that I really like as well, that really assist the articulation and help these figures really come to life, are things like wired capes that we first saw on the Celebration exclusive version of the Ronin figure from Star Wars Visions, and we're seeing that again with the upcoming Darth Vader from that Darth Vader Luke dual set from Empire Strikes Back. On newer characters as well, like the Glavis Ringworld Mandalorian and a lot of our newer Clone Trooper figures, we also have the loose knee armor, which really helps to hide those joints at the knees and also makes the figure look really natural when posing. Now, when I'm pointing stuff like this out, I will say again, I'm clearly trying to support my argument that I think Black Series is worth it at the $27.99 price point. However, I do acknowledge that there are some things that I'm not a fan of, like I've talked about it a bunch on the channel, you guys should know, lack of paint apps on lightsaber hilts, and things like the removable helmets on specifically Clone Troopers. While I do think that the newer figures overall are a vast improvement, there are small little things like that that I think Hasbro can continue to improve upon, and that's kind of the point of an action figure line, and from an artist's eye, it's always seeking to improve. You're never going to have complete perfection on your product. Hasbro has also just been really going outside of their comfort zone in the last couple years with the Black Series. A couple figures that come to mind for me are characters like the Droideka, the Super Battle Droid, and SM-33. These three droids are standouts in the Black Series as of late, with the Super Battle Droid especially being one of the greatest figures of all time. I think it's important to acknowledge how far Black Series has come in the last couple years alone. If these figures came out 5 or 10 years ago, they would be nowhere near as good or well articulated or well engineered as they are now. And as you can see right now on screen, I'm making a couple comparisons of some figures that I have older versions of as well as newer versions of. I think some of the biggest ones right now are the disparity in quality between the old Anakin and Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith and the current ones. I've seen people recently make some comparisons that they haven't changed all that much, they don't look much different, and I think that you're kind of turning a blind eye to how much the quality of these figures has changed over the course of the last 12 years when you look at figures like this. And of course with Black Series, there's always some give and take. I think another great one is comparing the old Commander Cody to the new one. I think drawing comparisons both ways is a really smart thing to do for the Black Series. There are things I really like about this new Commander Cody, like how much more dynamic posing I can do with him, how much more acrobatic and athletic I can make him look. However, I do think that the way that the non-removable helmet looks on the older one is a vast advantage in looks over the current way they do Clone Troopers. Even in the last 5 years, if we take a look at one of the original Beskar Din Djarin figures compared to the Mines of Mandalore or Glavis Ringworld versions that have come out in the last 12 months, I think that the difference is night and day. Newer articulation schemes, better looks for the figures, I think that it really is a very obvious difference in quality. So there are my thoughts, guys. That's why I think that the Black Series at $27.99 is still absolutely worth it, and why I will be continuing to collect it very heavily, as it has always been my main bread and butter for my Star Wars collection in my adult years. Is the Black Series a perfect action figure line line? Absolutely not. But I do think that we are starting to see a return to that very premium feel for Black Series. So why all the negativity and hate for Black Series as of late? Because I do see a lot of criticism for the line. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think my personal opinion on why a lot of people are so critical and so negative about the Black Series, when it really truly is one of the best action figure lines out there these days, is that people have these comparisons as adult collectors to very, very premium, much more expensive lines. A lot of adult collectors are very drawn to the higher quality, more expensive figures like SH Figuarts and Mafex, or a lot of cases Hot Toys as well at the 1/6 scale. So I think when people see those figures that are a lot higher quality and also a lot more expensive, by the way, I think people tend to forget that Black Series, being at that lower price point, does have a lot of constraints and restrictions in budget that these other action figure lines don't have. You also have to remember lines like SH Figuarts and Mafex and even Hot Toys have so many less releases in a year's time than Black Series has. A main reason why I love the Black Series line so much is because of the wide, diverse character selection. What other Star Wars action figure line in any other scale from any other brand can I get different Mandalorians that are just background characters from The Mandalorian Season 3, or just random clone troopers from different obscure legions from my favorite show, The Clone Wars? While I can absolutely agree that the quality of an SH Figuarts or a Mafex figure is higher than that of a Black Series figure, almost 10 times out of 10, I think that it is important to recognize that the Black Series is doing things that no other company or scale is doing. So what do I think the state of the Black Series is? I actually would go so far as to say that we are in the golden age of the Black Series right now. I think that character selection is the best that it's ever been in the entirety of the line, especially being a prequel and Clone Wars kid. I know a lot of my Expanded Universe fans feel similarly as well, with all the Expanded Universe love we've been getting in the last couple years. And I have to say, the quality, looking from figure to figure, from articulation to the quality of the detail and the engineering of the figures, is a vast improvement. And overall, I think Black Series is worth it at $27.99. Let me know what you think. Do you think I'm stupid and a shill for making this video and sharing these talking points? Let me know in the comments. Do you agree with me? Are you also potentially a shill? Make sure to also drop a comment and let me know. But with that, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions, because I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC Trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this video early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC Trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you just want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion. For just 99 cents a month, it gives you access to all my reviews early, as opposed to all my content like you get with Patreon. You get exclusive badges and priority replies in my comment section, and like the Patreon, you get to vote on what I review next for the channel. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you can head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. 1-2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody, cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?